Welcome to the Sparkle Sesh. I'm Suzanne Castle, your host and Chief Sparkle Officer. This is the show where bold conversations meet actionable inspiration. Every episode, we bring together powerhouse panelists to dive into the topics that matter most: leadership, resilience, branding, visibility, and everything else in between. It's all about big ideas, meaningful connections, and fresh strategies for ambitious women like you. So grab your favorite drink, pull up a seat, and let's get the conversation started. It's time to shine brighter, bolder, and better than ever. Welcome to the Sparkle Sesh. I'm Suzanne Castle. I'm so thrilled to be here with you for our very first episode. I have been working on this show for several months about how to do the format, what we're going to talk about. And this show is literally all about bold conversations and actionable insights. Today, we're going to dive into what it takes to create a sparkling, successful 2025. And I'm joined today by extraordinary women who are lighting the way in leadership, in business, in community. And I can't wait for you to meet them. These ladies are the real deal. They're bringing brilliance, they're bringing boldness, they're bringing impact to everything they do. So first up, we have Megan Bozzuto. She is the powerhouse president of the International Association of Women with over 20 years of experience. She brings accounting and finance and marketing as part of her background and her mission to really elevate the presence and power of women. Megan, you're all about championing growth, leadership, community for women worldwide. I'm so glad that you said yes to be here for this inaugural episode. What's inspiring you as we start this new year?
Oh, good question. I think and this goes back to something that you talk about a lot through coaching, is how I want to feel. I think that so often we set a goal, but we don't necessarily attach that. How do I want to be sitting at the end of the year feeling either proud and good about everything I've done, feeling like I've done the work and shown up as my best self every day? And like I like the work I'm doing really matters. So to me, that means building clear goals and really aligning with my values and working on the things that are important to me.
Love that. So good. And I know we're going to hear a little bit more about some of those aspects as we move along today. And rounding out this trio today is Stephanie Treasure, international speaker, entrepreneur who's been helping businesses grow, thrive for nearly 2 decades. Stephanie specializes in visibility, leadership, marketing, and sales strategies that deliver incredible results like milestone 5-figure launches. She is the real deal. Stephanie, welcome. What's energizing you as we dive into 2025?
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm thrilled to be a part of this first episode. And really what's inspiring me this year is ways that I can connect more with other entrepreneurs, with my community, and ways that I am looking as it relates to innovating the way that I'm delivering my services. COVID-19 saw us go fully online and everything, people kind of got Zoom fatigue. And then as, we kind of got through that, then people started connecting more offline. And even with the offline events, the same old doesn't work anymore. So I'm looking to be more a part of offline events that are changing things up and getting people engaged in different ways and just making it more fun and exciting and providing more opportunities for people to connect with each other, learn from each other, grow based on each other's shared experiences. And I'm looking to mix things up for myself and my community online with different things that I'm going to be doing, workshops and the like, which I'll talk more about later. And this is one of those experiences that I'm really happy that you've put together, because I believe that you're innovating as it relates to how you share information, how you support others, how you show up and bring other entrepreneurs together. So yeah, just very excited overall for what this year has to bring.
Both of you are so kind. Thank you. I love hearing what's inspiring you. And I think it is the perfect way to kick off the Sparkle Sesh with each of your bold voices, your fresh ideas that are going to light up the year ahead. And whenever you're catching this episode, I know that they are going to create a roadmap for you with some fun and actionable tips and tricks. So let's jump in. I'm excited. So I want to start by thinking really about leadership. So I believe that leadership often sets the tone for success. And sometimes we don't see ourselves as leading in our own lives, leading in our own businesses. I spend a lot of my time with my clients and on stages talking about being the CEO of your own life. And when you're able to do that, the CEO of your world will actually follow. So, Megan, let me ask you first, what are your top 3 leadership principles that you would recommend leaders focus on to really thrive in 25?
So only 3. It's hard, right? Because when you start looking at leadership and researching and reading, doing all the stuff that's out there, there's so many different principles and things that you can use to guide you. So I'll start with number 1, I think, is authenticity. I think in order to build trust, we have to be transparent. We have to be vulnerable. We have to show that before we can expect to get that from others. And when you foster that culture where people really feel valued and they feel seen, they're motivated to bring their best selves every single day. They're motivated to speak up and say, here's my big idea, or I don't like the way this is going. My second one would be empowerment of others. So investing in your own self-development, but also the development of others, whether that means training, mentorship, delegation, stretch opportunities, all those things, so that you're building an environment where you can grow yourself, but your team is growing right alongside you. And then the third one, I think I'd say growth mindset. I think we always have to be operating from a place where we're embracing change and looking forward and developing ourselves, developing those around us, so that we're encouraging resilience, we're encouraging better leaders, we're encouraging the going through life. I mean, there's so much uncertainty, right? And there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be hard things, but with that growth mindset, we know we can conquer.
Yeah, I love that. So Stephanie, tell me your kind of top 3 as you're walking in, because you spend a lot of time with leaders, you spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs, people online and offline, as you talked about. So what are you kind of leaning into in this year ahead?
Yeah, great question. And, I share the sentiments of what Megan has shared in terms of her top 3, especially the growth mindset piece. And that's kind of what I'm going to lead with. The way that or my first tip is for people who really want to be great leaders to always network up. If you want to grow, right, you try to be in the room of others who are ahead of you, slightly ahead of you, or way ahead of you, so that you can expand your vision for what's possible and see ways where there's more room for you to grow, whether in life, in your career, or in business. So that would be my first tip. The second tip is to share your vision. Especially if you're leading a team, you never want to just delegate and just kind of give your team things to do in a vacuum, to say, this is what I needed to do, without giving them the rhyme or reason, or without sharing that big picture vision that the business has or that the company has, or even just if you're dealing with your department. What's the vision? What are some targets that we're trying to hit that your, every member of your team, whether they're top level, middle, or lower level, you want everybody to have buy-in for where you're going, where you're headed, what your vision is, because you'll have more support, you'll have more loyalty, you'll have people bringing ideas to the table, all in support of having everyone be able to achieve that vision, because they'll embody it, they'll embrace it as if it's their mission, their vision as well. And then thirdly is communication. Right now, this time has seen so many ways for us to communicate that there is no reason, no way that anybody should be in the dark on anything as it relates to team projects or anything that you're working on. I mean, there's WhatsApp, there's Voxer, there's Telegram, there's good old email, phone, Google Groups, all the things, Messenger, Slack, so many ways to communicate. But what I will say is make sure that you have a communication policy so that everybody's on the same page as to how we're communicating, when we're communicating, what modem we're using, what's fit for text or email, and what's more fit for a meeting. But these are the ways that I see that I would encourage leaders to think of these things and try to incorporate them so that you can really thrive and be better and achieve more in 2025.
I love this. Both of you talked about community. You both talked about connection. You both talked about communication. See, this is why you're here, because you're the experts in this space. And one of the things that I was thinking about as I'm leading my own small team, and honestly leading my daughter who is 20 and helping her be a good human, is really, I love the tidbits of make sure someone understands what you want them to understand. So I think there are so many people that walk in the world by osmosis. They're like, well, it's in my head and I said it a certain way. I don't know why they didn't get it. And I think what I'm trying to do, I know both of you do, is really teach a different way, which is what way does that person need to hear information so that they can go act and implement that information? So it's not always about the way that I would say it, the way that I absorb it. It's really when you're leading, when you're being a CEO, it's more stepping into the energy of, I'm going to change my strategy so that the person can absorb what they need to absorb. And that's a whole different kind of, I think, I would say EQ, but also just like CEOQ of understanding how to be in front of different kinds of groups in different ways. So I love the fact that both of you talked about networking and being in the right rooms, really thinking about how you are making sure that you've got people around you. So I think a lot about, I've got to be in a room where, as Stephanie said, there are people that have already done what I want to do, or they're following a trend that I'm interested in that I think works for me or my clients or what I'm trying to do in the world. And yet I also think it's important to also then, I say this often, like look not down necessarily, but look over and make sure that you're not leaving people behind because somebody's looking to you. And both of you work in that space. So it's very overwhelming. Just yesterday, I had a client mention to me, how do I know what networking thing to go to? What I need to be investing my time in? Is it in person? Is it virtual? Like, how do I decide? I think a lot of us are in that space when there's so many amazing opportunities now. So, Stephanie, let me start with you. How do you really invite professionals to leverage networks or associations and create an actionable opportunity in the coming year? Like, is there some kind of ladder that you take them through, or some kind of, here is the way that you maybe need to be thinking about this, maybe questions to ask?
If you are, it's definitely a great, as you led with, it's good to be a part of networking communities or associations within your industry, because you don't want to be operating in a vacuum. You want to be in the know. You want to be around others like you, as you can possibly learn from them, or see ways that you can innovate, or run things by other colleagues, etc. Right? So you certainly, being a part of other communities is important. How I would encourage you to really leverage these organizations, because you have people who join the organization and they're like, yeah, I'm in this thing, but whatever. Or maybe they'll go to an annual event that they host, even though there's many other opportunities throughout the year. So I would encourage you, whenever you join any of these organizations, to seize every opportunity that they have. Attend, really make it a point. Make it part of your, if you have meetings on your calendar that you have to attend anyway for business or for career, whatever is happening in that organization, add that to your calendar as well, and make it a point where possible to attend and show up. And because you're gonna get from it what you give, what you put in, like anything. If there are ways to share your expertise, if it's in kind of an organization where they either have brain trusts or they have conferences, maybe every quarter, and they invite from within to speak at those engagements, leverage and use that to your advantage, because you also, the people that are part of these organizations, they may be primed to, help you in terms of business resources
Right.
that you're looking for, or they may want to use your services. And the other thing I'm going to suggest, which is a little bit more, it will require you to do a little bit, above, go beyond, is to seize or rather create opportunities where you form little pods, little informal roundtables, if you will, if possibly at the networking events, there are a few people that you see in a similar industry to you that you can learn from, or they could possibly learn from you, or you can share resources.
Yeah.
Just invite them to a small meeting, kind of, your own breakout, if you will, your own breakout meeting or breakout session, just to have a meeting of the minds, do some brainstorming, do some networking, and see how you can support each other.
I love that idea of kind of a micro group around either trend or industry or resource, or even, moms, who have several things going on, and moms of toddlers, and really kind of help each other resource. Megan, a lot of your world is running as the major boss babe of the International Association of Women, which as part of its mission is to really help women network. And so you spend a lot of time, I will say it's remarkable, as the president, every Monday, I'm a member, and every Monday you run a mastermind for members, and you're teaching them leveraging, not only like how they leverage their own time and their own energy, but how they are leveraging networks. So what are some opportunities that you're seeing, or ways that people could really address networking? You have a whole book about this as well. So what are some things that you would share as 2025, all these opportunities, here's the way to be thinking about that?
So Stephanie hit on this already, but I want to reiterate it. If you join and then don't attend, that's on you, right? Yeah. If you join it, I liken it to joining the gym. How many of us pay for a gym membership but don't step foot in that door? Guess what? You're not getting skinny if you don't step in that door, not getting in shape, not getting the health benefits. It's the same thing as these programs, as a networking group, an organization, whatever it is. If you commit the money, then commit the time. And it doesn't mean you have to attend every single event. You don't have to be number one member, but be intentional about showing up as much as you can, because that's where you're going to get the value out of it. The other thing I would say is you have to be willing to give value to get value. So often I see the best results come from relationships where I've invested some time or some energy or some thought leadership. And then the final thing is get a little uncomfortable. It's okay to walk into a room and say, ooh, and Suzanne, we've both talked about this before, where I don't love going to an event where I don't know anybody. I don't love putting myself out there as the person in the room that is there with the, hi, I'm Megan, this is what I do, right? It can be uncomfortable, but when I do put myself out there, I've seen some incredible things happen. And I can look back and see where I truly showed up authentically and uncomfortable, and where I kind of snuck into the back of the room with my phone and just kind of hid. Completely different outcomes.
I love that. I was just going to say really quickly, Suzanne, is that, it's kind of where they say, if you are in a room where you are the brightest one, you're in the wrong room. If you're in a room where you know everybody, I would say you're in the, it sounds like that's what you're saying, you're in the wrong room as well, because how are you going to expand if you're hanging around with the same people all the time? So as much as it is uncomfortable, I think that's the point, because you should, want to, strive to be uncomfortable, enter new rooms, and get to know new people and expand your horizon. So I love that because I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good. I joke that I'm an introverted extrovert. So people assume because I was in the entertainment world, I can walk in a room and no one's a stranger. Nothing could be further from the truth. Like when I walk on a stage, I am fine. If I walk in a room where I don't know anybody, I literally shut down. So I become the wallflower networker where I'm like, please, somebody come talk to me. Like I really want to be real about this because people that are listening, like, let's be honest with each other.
We can do this, right? We can sit in the back of the room and say, oh, I have a very important email that I need to send.
Right. Or you step out in the hallway and you're like, maybe somebody will come say, hey, come da 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 da. And it's
so, I look for those people now. So if I'm at an event and I notice the person who's head down on their phone or kind of like sitting, I see that person and I make it a point to pull them into a conversation. I've been there. I get it. And sometimes you need a nudge. And it takes the pressure off of me to put it on somebody else. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So I think that's very wise. I try to come up with a funny question. I try to have a funny question ready to go. Not necessarily funny, but different when I walk in for when I'm feeling really uncomfortable. And I got to say, the first thing that I do is I regulate my own self. So no one knows if you're having an internal freak out unless you have an external freak out, right? So I take a couple of deep breaths and I say, you know what? I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes trying really hard to get into a conversation. And if it doesn't happen, then in 15 minutes, I'm going to leave. And that way I can regulate all of the, internal mess and sweat and all the anxiety that might be popping up. And then my brain immediately shifts into, okay, we've got 15 minutes. Who's going to do this with us? Right. And I love that. Like, who's not talking to somebody, et cetera. That's a great tip, Megan.
But Suzanne, the other thing with giving yourself 15 minutes, if you're at an event that's networking and in 15 minutes, you don't find anyone in that room to connect with, leave the room because you're probably wasting your time being there, right? If in 15 minutes, you don't find a connection or somebody doesn't approach you or you don't find these people approachable, you have to know when you're in the wrong room. And if you're in the wrong room, you're probably wasting your time. And it's okay to say, I tried, I gave it time, but this is not the right place for me. I think so often we end up wasting a lot of time because we want something to work so hard. And you'll feel better if it's like disqualifying a bad lead, right? Just cut and run, move on to the next thing.
So Stephanie, what would you say? Have you been in a room where all that awkwardness or you're feeling, like, what is your strategy do? I love that we're just being honest about this because so many people are like, oh, let's just solve this and make this like this. Like, no, there's some weirdness that happens in networking. I love that we're being honest about it.
Yeah. I like to compliment. So I'll compliment somebody either on what they're wearing or, something, if they did say something that they said, or I'll go up to somebody who did speak. And I'd say, wow, I really enjoyed that point. And then sometimes, or say if it is a speaker, they'll get flocked by other persons that are looking to speak to them. And I'll speak to those persons that have also come forward. Or, I just make just, small talk and then, get into it from there and say, hey, do you attend these events often? Or, hey, what do usual, what do you do type of thing? Or what are you really excited about right now? One networking event that I went to where everybody was saying, oh, so what do you do? What do you do? She said her approach is always like, what are you most excited about as it relates to your work right now? And she said, whenever she asks a question that way, the person that answers normally, starts with, they're really bubbly. They get off, if they were kind of probably having introverted tendencies before, they open up to share. And then the conversation flows from there. So little things like that is what I've done.
I love this so much. So, okay, this episode's coming out at the end of January. So let's be honest. A lot of us had really exciting things planned for January, and 4 weeks into 2025, something got us off track. Whether it was an awkward networking exposure like we just did, it didn't go so well. And we're like, that's not going to work. I'm just done with networking, because we tend to do that. It's either this or it's this. Like, that's just the default that a lot of us live into. So what would you say at this point? Stephanie, I'd love to hear you first. When people are struggling to follow through with your goals, whether for in your world it's like, I'm going to do a launch, or I've said I was going to have this kind of exposure with clients, whatever that might be, what systems or tools do you personally use when you're feeling that, to ensure that you're staying on track and that to make sure that you're accountable throughout the year? Because it just seems so big. And when something goes awry, it's so much easier to just be like this.
Yeah. Not fun. You want to reconnect with at the overarching for any goal, for any endeavor, worthwhile endeavor that you're looking to achieve. Get clear on what that is and why. How is it going to make your life better? Why is this important to you? How it will affect those around you. As woo-woo as that sound, if you're in a place where you're feeling deflated, you're feeling like you're off track, something didn't go according to plan, just reconnect with that first, right? So that's the kind of the mindset piece. And then strategically, or more, I would say tactically then, look at what your goals are. Look back at your plan if you've already laid out a plan, and maybe right now you need to pivot, which is another leadership quality. Always be willing to pivot, because not everything will always go in a straight line. Right. So look at your goals, look at where you are. How can you bring things back into focus? And I personally, in terms of my tools and my method, I use the Google Suite. So I use Google Docs, Google Sheets to, really map out a high level what I'm looking to achieve. What are the things that need to happen to bring that about? What are the milestones markers on the way to make these things happen? And what are the deadline dates? Calendar these things to say, by this date, marketing collateral for this event should be done, or by this date, this team member to support me with this next project needs to be on board. So backtracking, I need to start putting feelers out, creating a job description, having interviews, at this timeline, if I want to bring this team member on by that date. So I like to use, like I said, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Calendar, to put my plans in place and all the tactics, so that I'm clear on what needs to be done, what's in my wheelhouse to do, what I need to delegate, who I need to delegate to, and what the clear deadlines are.
Yeah, that's good. So Megan, what are some strategies that you use? Because you're managing lots of different companies, and I can't even imagine hundreds and hundreds of people who clamor for you.
And 3 kids.
And 3 kids. And
by the way, that household.
Right.
Yeah.
And for babies and all the things.
Yeah.
Like, all
my
3 of us.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. My life likes to throw challenges my way. I have reached a point where I'm like, this again. But so I have 2 things. And one is a very tactical, we call it the ideal week. So anytime my life is feeling like, things are not, I'm running frantic. I'm finding I'm not sleeping enough. I'm working at all hours. I go back to my ideal week. And this is a document we share in the IAW community. I'm happy to give it to anyone that connects with me on LinkedIn if you ask for it. It's a template with time blocks, and I can go in and I can say, if everything went according to plan, what is my ideal week? It doesn't mean that my calendar is going to match it exactly, but it's going to be pretty close. A couple months ago, I was really overwhelmed, and I was just working all hours of the night. I felt like I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't going to the gym. And somebody I work with says, well, what's your ideal week look like? I'm like, I stopped using that. Well, guess what? I pulled it back in, and this is really funny. She worked with me to redo my ideal week, because we often partner up on these things. And so she said, open the document. It's blank. The first thing I want you to put in there is self-care. And what do? I go and put the time with my kid. I put dinner with the kids and dropping off at school. She said, no, that stuff will happen. Where is the time for you? When are you taking care of yourself? And it was a great reminder that as women, we tend to put ourselves at the bottom of the list. Like, everything wants our attention. Everything's moving so fast, and it's me. And so when you're clear on those priorities, you can get them calendared, and having that clarity around this is what my ideal week looks like. Can I get as close to that as possible? Allows me to find the space that I need to carve out for my priorities. So the second thing I want to share, we saw this happening a lot with members inside the IAW community as well. And our community is constantly evolving based on member feedback and the things that our members need. And so that's why we created the Monday Mastermind sessions. Every single Monday, it's 30 minutes. It's on Zoom, or you can catch the recording, and it gives you an opportunity to celebrate the things you're proud of, because celebration is critical. It gives you the opportunity to get really clear on your priorities for the week. It's a reminder to put yourself first and really be clear about what is it I need to get done this week. Go put it on your calendar. And then it connects with asking the community for support, connects with resources, gets everyone kind of kicking off the week with energy. And I have to say, while we built this for the members, it has provided me with the support I need to get really clear every single Monday on this is what I'm doing. So I manage a lot, but when I'm clear on my priorities, I feel like I can be intentional with my time and not be ending every day going, oh, okay.
Yeah. I love that. I think I would add, this has been so good, but I think I would add, when my world goes wonky, and let's be honest, every single day, something comes at you that can wonkify whatever you thought you were going to be doing. Like, because it could just be anything. It could be that Mayday goes out. It could, it could be, I'm like, who knows? Something's not working. Like, it may not even be anything in your control, right? And one of the things that I've tried to do is I do an everyday evaluation rather than a weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, because I want to know, where did I show up for myself in the way that I intended at the beginning of the day? And how do I feel about that? Like, am I feeling really good about that? Like, what thoughts were I thinking? Were they serving me? Did I get a lot done? Or what? I felt kind of crummy today. And you know what? My actions followed that. And if I wait until the end of the week, what I noticed after doing this for several years now is my whole week felt lost. So I imagine at the end of January, if you're already feeling lost, maybe starting with, let's just check in with ourselves. And I don't mean before you go to bed. I mean, like, at the end of your workday, which means you're supposed to have an end to your workday.
That's the other thing on my ideal week. I realized, because I work from home, and there's a glass door that separates me from the rest of my house. And so the door would open and it would stay open, and I would flow in and out, and I would leave the 100 tabs open on my computer and emails half finished, because I was just going back and forth. I was not ending my work day. And so I put a 5:30 p.m. wrap up. It doesn't mean I don't grab my laptop and sometimes work in the evening, but I wrap up to say I finished the things I need to finish. I close loops on things I need to close loops on. And that one little block of time has helped me tremendously.
Love this.
Yeah. Love that as well. Yeah.
So I'm curious. So as we kind of end, this has been so good. And I just could soak up all day with both of you. Like, I want to fly to Jamaica and hang out with Stephanie. You want to fly to Boston, right?
Especially because it's really cold here in Boston right now. Let's go to Jamaica next time.
Everybody wants to be in Jamaica, right? I'm in a little Airbnb in Fredericksburg right now, Texas. And so I'm curious I know, Megan, you talked about connect with you on LinkedIn. You're happy to help to hand over an ideal week. That's really generous of you. We'll put that in the show notes. Stephanie, is there something that you would like to, point people to as they follow you? We're going to make sure that people follow you and see all the things that you're doing.
Yeah, it's best to follow me on social media. So you can just Google Stephanie Treasure. I'm Stephanie Treasure on most places. I think on Instagram, it's the Stephanie Treasure. On Facebook, it's Stephanie.treasure. I do have a Facebook group as well, and my website, stephanietreasure.com. What I'm focusing, or some of the things that I'm doing that's different this year, is I'm looking to bring my community into more interactive learning opportunities, if you will. So, I do have the way that I work with my clients, high level one-on-one mastermind accelerator, but I'm going to be doing a series of workshops, low cost, interactive, where the main focus is going to be on strategy, implementation, mindset of whatever topic that we choose. I'm going to be very intentional with making sure that each person leaves with strategy around the topic, how they can implement, and some mindset tips. And it's going to bring people together, in a different way. Again, fostering that community feel, but allowing people to learn from me and learn from each other. So you can look out and look forward to that this year. Once you're following me in any of those places, you will see me making these announcements. So I won't tell you anything specific that I'm doing in terms of, I can't tell you what the first workshop is going to be just yet. But once like I said, once you're following me, you'll get the announcements.
And I'll just say, we all get a lot of email. I open up every single email that Stephanie does. She does a lot of free video training. She gives tips and nuggets all the time. So you want to be sure and follow her. So Megan, is there anything you'd like to see really quick before we say goodbye?
Yeah. Similar, I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, so connect with me there. If you have questions about IAW, is it the right place for you? But also if you're just looking for support or resources, I'm always happy to help. And Suzanne, I always love to give a good plug to your email list, because I have to say yours is the one that I open every time I see an email. I'm like, yep, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. So I'll give you that plug.
Woo, girl.
Yes.
For that. I love that. Thank you. I try real hard to make sure there's a reason to open this email, right?
I agree. I
just want to say thank you for me. So it was very intentional with who I chose for episode 1. I mean, I kind of feel like Star Wars right now, episode 1, but it was really important to me that we start with leadership and resilience and how to show up. And I find that each of you are an expert in that. So I want to say thank you for saying yes to this opportunity, for pouring into everyone that's listening and watching this episode right now. And thank you for how you walk in the world. Okay, friends, I hope that you'll tune in for the next episode. They come out once a month at the end of the month. They're called the Sparkle Sesh, for the next little roundtable that we're going to have. I'm Suzanne Castle. We'll see you next month.